What's up, world? How you doing? It's exciting to know that as I'm recording this, who knows how far this one message will be carried. This is something I've truly held in me for quite some time, and I just came in the house within the last 5 minutes. How many? 5 minutes. And I was talking to what would seem like a random person. I mean, I've never met this individual prior to today, but tonight it's approximately 1:05 a.m. That's Eastern time zone, and so when we met, it was probably about 12:30, and just in the time that we were conversing, this specific portion of the conversation came up, and it emerged um, outside of me, and I just felt compelled to share this. So it goes like this. There was a story about a man named Moses. Now Moses was born as a Hebrew. Pay attention to the details as we go through this. You may be familiar with the story or may never have heard the story prior to this, but I'm glad you're being exposed to it. So there's a story about a man named Moses. Now he was born a Hebrew, yet he was raised um, as an Egyptian. Now the Egyptians were the America of their time. They were the powerhouse, the supernova. And so Moses, having been raised by these Egyptians, one day he found himself out in the fields. Now these were in the fields during the time that the Egyptians were the slave masters and the Hebrews were the pyramid builders. So Moses saw one of the Hebrews, or maybe even a portion of the Hebrews, being maybe, let's say, brutally beaten, or just, let's say, mistreated by the Egyptian slave masters. Now we can understand people who tend to abuse their power. We can understand that. Doesn't make it right, but we understand it. Okay, so now Moses, he became infuriated at this sight, because naturally he was also a Hebrew, so he sided with them regardless of how he was raised. This was brought out of him. So in his own power, what he did was he rose up and he said, you know what, this type of injustice will not happen under my control or under my watch. And what he did was he actually killed the Egyptian slave master. So two things happened after this, actually three, and this is what they were. One, the Egyptians turned their back on Moses because, one, he had betrayed them. Okay, now secondly, instead of the Hebrews siding with Moses, what they did was, as a collective body, they said, you know what, Moses is not for us, but he's actually against us and we can't trust him. So now one side and the second side, in which he not tried to side with, but he attempted to save, they turned their backs against him. So what happens? Moses was pushed back. So now Moses is forced to go into exile, because what had happened was he actually became Egypt's most wanted. Now that's something we can relate to, because every Sunday night, I believe, America's most wanted does come on, with the same host that's been on there for as long as Alex Trebek has been on Jeopardy. So anyway, moving on. So now both sides are against Moses, and Moses is left to be by himself. Now that's a good point right there. As leaders, oftentimes when we do go to do the right thing, we'll find ourselves being isolated from the bunch. But understand that life is always teaching us a lesson. So now Moses, as he goes to save one, he ends up actually creating more catastrophe than he intended. So he's isolated. And what happens during his time of isolation? He has an encounter. An encounter with who? With God. And this is during the time where God says that I am. And so to summarize the story, God says, I want you to go back. And now I want you to liberate these people. And so now Moses goes back. And when he journeys back into Egypt, okay, he goes. And now he eventually liberates over 1 million people. 1 million people. That's a lot of people. Understand? Okay. So now, what am I getting at? What I'm getting at is, in his own power, he went to save one. But under the power of God and with the right relationship and with connection to God on a whole nother level, he's able to do something on an immense level that probably he couldn't even fathom, because he dreamt about saving this one, but he ends up saving 1 million plus inhabitants of this land. Now, this is not to make Egypt right, Israel wrong, or Israel right, Egypt wrong. This is just a story that which we can understand, because when you understand how the mind works, it's beautiful, because we all have stories and we all have successes in our life, but we also have what we call failures. Okay, but failures, it's not the end of the road. It's for us to learn from. So how can we learn from the story of Moses? The point is, Moses had a gift. It was the same precise gift that was in operation when he went to save the one, that was also moving him forward, that was compelling him when he went and saved the 1 million. So my point is this: at one point in my life, I sold drugs. I sold drugs 100 miles an hour. You understand? But that's not the end of the story. You may have been a prostitute, a pimp, whatever. You fill it in, okay? And the point is this: it's never over. But the point is this: it's just to give you an opportunity to look at your life in another way, to understand that there's a gift inside of you. The earth was never made bare, but the earth is filled with rubies, sapphires, gems, onyx, what else? You name it, it's there. Gold, platinum, it's all in the earth. But what do we have to do? We have to dig. It's never laying at the top of the surface, but it causes for us to dig. So life is telling you, look, today begin, or today continue your dig into who you are. Look at your life. Pay attention to the patterns. Pay attention to who you are, because who you are is beautiful, is glorious. And you may have had some setbacks, you may have had some upsets, you may have some downs, some really dark points in your life, but there's a gift inside of you, and I call and I speak to that gift today to rise up, to come forward, to come out, to stand on the stage. So no longer do you have to hide or dumb yourself down because of the people you're around, but you can be who you were called to be. But I want you to understand that you have a gift. And it was the same gift that was working for Moses when he saved one, but it worked out chaotically, or when he saved 1 million and it worked out gloriously. But it was that same gift that was in operation. So if you begin to analyze your life and ask questions, and you begin to understand what it was that was driving you at that point, it's that same gift that will drive you to what? To do what Joseph did, to save many lives alive. I want you to be encouraged, and I just needed to get this out of me, because it's come up time and time again, just in random, so to say, random conversations just with individuals. But this same story that I was exposed to, it came up, and the story connects with me because of who I am. I'm the type of person who wants to see you achieve your success, who wants to see you figure out who you are, what you want, what's in the way, and how are we going to get it. Okay? Because I know I have a gift, I know you have a gift, I know you have a purpose, I know I have a purpose. And what is life if we don't fulfill that purpose? Because it's that same purpose that's driving us every day, regardless if we think about it consciously or if we're driven by it unconsciously. It's still there. The blueprint has already been written. So hopefully I've said something that can inspire you to take charge, to take command of your life, to understand yourself in another way, to know that there's no weapon that's formed against you that can prosper or that will prosper. But please continue to believe in yourself. Learn how to trust yourself. And know that all things are working for you and not entirely against you. Get yourself involved in the right community, involved with the right team. Align your thoughts with the right thoughts that are above the thoughts that keep you isolated, that keep you secluded, that keep you thinking that, you know what, there's not an abundance in this earth, but the earth is abundant. So trust and believe in your gift. Trust and believe that God is for you and not against you, regardless of your religious affiliation. But know that I believe in you and I want you to succeed. So believe that you too can succeed, and get yourself involved with the right mentor, the right coach, and the right community. And grace and peace be upon you. And if we can partner at any point in our journeys, then let's do that. But until then, be encouraged, be inspired, and as Tony Robbins says, live with passion.